Well, welcome to the Infection Podcast. We are live in Seattle, Washington for PAX West 2018. My name is Nick Craig. I'm alongside my co-host wearing his wonderful Infection, the H1Z1 podcast shirt, Brian with an eye, Aldridge, and our hype man extraordinaire, the man who's been pimping our show out, and that is a good friend, Mr. Lan Gunn. Gentlemen, we just wrapped up... I do know your full name. Lance Gunter is here as well. I don't want to dox him, but whatever. He's here. His social security number is also in the chat, and his phone number.
Just post that in the
So we're here, we're live, and we just wrapped up our third and final day of PAX West. So
yes.
I guess we'll start with the conversation with, first, what did you guys think of this compared to PAX East last year?
Well, today we had a couple more days to handle everything. Last year we came in late on a Thursday night.
Yep, late on a Thursday.
Throughout Thursday.
Yeah, it's not, we didn't miss our flights or anything. We just got in late.
Yeah, it was just a late day. and so we pretty much had Friday, Saturday, and then we flew back Sunday morning. Was that how it worked?
I think so. Yes, that sounds about right.
And so we had 2 real days of actually doing things, and it just felt like we were moving the whole time, no time to actually see any of Boston or do anything except for convention stuff, and then we went, and it seems like we went to the hotel and slept.
That was pretty accurate.
Sounds about right.
And so with this one, we had an opportunity we walked around quite a bit, go to some restaurants, experience some of Seattle, the interesting things about Seattle. Whoa,
lovely.
Lance
he's a
fan. Let's see if he drops the microphone today too.
What were you saying, Brian?
And so we got to go around and experience a little bit of this area of Seattle. So that was really nice, and we were able to take this last day, really go around the convention center, and try to find those other things, other games and things that maybe we wouldn't always cover, but try to find some others that we've thought people might find interesting and get those last little interviews done. So that was, for me, was enjoyable, that we didn't feel like we had to rush and we're running the whole time. We had some time to say, all right, let's just relax, or let's go get some lunch. But still I think we got all the interviews we wanted.
There's plenty of lunch, that's for sure.
We ate more than I ever eat.
The layout was definitely a trip this year, with the upstairs, downstairs, 6th floor, 4th floor, across the street at the Sheraton for some of the meetings and stuff like that. I like the one in Boston better personally. That was just one giant open format. You could kind of break it into quadrants or walk around the wall. It seemed easier to find people too, because you wouldn't have to worry about where booths were actually located, and the floor and the building. it was all in here. Just remember the number and you could zip up and down and find them easily. So I mean, the layout of the one in Boston seemed better, I thought, but this one was definitely, I think it was bigger. They had more.
There was more.
Denser. There was more stuff packed into the same size space, So.
Well, and that
was interesting.
This had multiple levels of, and certain levels were dedicated to certain things. So if you were a board gamer, they had pretty much 2 levels that was all board game stuff. One level was rooms where you could just go play games with people. So if that was your thing, if that's what you were into, you could go and specifically play board games all day.
And Fantasy Flight, that board game company, they had tables set up with a lot of their most popular and newest board games out. They also had some of the developers there sitting at the table, so when you would sit down to try out a new game for a session, they were there with you to walk you through. So there wasn't a lot of having to get used to rules or trying to figure out how to DM or manage a situation. We had the people who were actually there sitting down with you, talking to you about the development, also talking with you about the mechanics and how everything worked out. So I think that was really slick. It's probably the slickest room that I saw as far as tabletop and D&D stuff go.
Well, that's the thing about PAX East. I remember what the board game area looked like, and it was just a bunch of tables on concrete and looked like not so comfortable chairs. This had a much more private environment of rooms, separate rooms, where you wouldn't have everyone and the loud noises of the convention distracting you throughout the whole thing. And I think that for me seemed like, for a board gamer, would be much more comfortable of an environment.
Yeah. Well, plus it was closed off too. Like, they would have areas just for board games of that specific type. Like you said, it wasn't. It almost looked like an outdoor cafeteria area at Boston. It was just tables everywhere, and people were just sitting and mingling and walking, bumping into the back of your chair probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought this was probably a lot better for board game stuff too.
Well, let's talk about a couple of the people we went to and a couple of things that we talked to, and some interviews that you can expect to see over the next week or so as we publish some of those things.
Sure.
One of the ones that, which was really cool, that I was excited that we were able to talk to, we weren't expecting them, were the folks over at Realm Royale.
Yeah.
One of the first things we noticed as we walked into the convention center was the Facebook gaming booth, which by the way, before we get into Realm Royale, Facebook is making a serious play at gaming.
Yeah,
I know that it's Facebook, big evil Facebook, but they're making a serious push for gaming.
They had the Oculus in full effect there.
They own Oculus. They're fb.gg. That's their gaming URL, and they're making a serious push for gaming.
It was almost as big as the Microsoft and the Sony and PlayStation booth.
Yeah, it was big. And the Realm Royale folks were there. And Brian, you actually interviewed the guy from Realm Royale. So obviously, without giving us the interview, what was the kind of the reaction from that?
So that one thing you'll notice about that interview is that, first of all, it was in the Facebook Gaming Center area, and so that was something that was a little bit different because it was not like Realm Royale's booth. It was an area that Facebook actually. And you won't really get this from the interview because this is something we talked about before and after, but Facebook actually approached them and said, hey, we like your game. Would you like some area in our booth, our Facebook gaming booth, to demonstrate and show off Realm Royale? Sure. And so they had a couple of developers there. We lined up an interview. They seemed very happy. One thing that I don't think it'll come across on the interview is they seem kind of nervous to talk to people about it. I don't know what it was. Maybe there's certain one, they'll talk to IGN, they'll talk to, because they know that they're kind of questions they're going to ask them.
Right. Do you feel like that was just a personality of the individual? I mean, I don't think that they were like...
I don't think as a company they were, but I think these
either.
guys, I think these two guys were sent here.
Yeah, he's a developer.
Yeah,
he's not
a
used
developer.
to talking in front of crowds.
I think he's worried,
thing,
okay, am I going to say something, or are these guys going to like trick me into trying to say something I'm not supposed to?
Right.
Like, yeah. I think they were kind of nervous, and I think as the interview went through, they really, he really relaxed.
He did.
And I was even reading the face of the other developer who was across the camera, on the other side of the camera, and I could see that he kind of relaxed and smiled.
Like, oh, this is going to be okay.
And he was like, okay, this is fine. Because I would be nervous too when a podcast that you've never heard of.
These guys, right?
You don't know if these guys are trolls. I mean, we're dealing with the internet, first of all. I mean, you don't know if these guys are just like some troll Twitch channel or whatever, coming in and saying, hey, let's do an interview, and then
sure.
Who knows what's going to happen. But they seemed really happy. He calmed right down, very calmly answered the questions. I think we had a really good interview, and he gave us some nice cards that we'll be giving away, keys for skin codes for the chicken.
Yep.
Here in the next couple of weeks. And so I think that was a good interview. It came out with how nervous he seemed. I didn't know where it was going to go. Like, I didn't know if the whole time he was going to be like, I don't know, I can't.
Well, he was the community manager, so I mean, he's interviewed before.
Yeah, but he just seemed. Did you catch that? He seemed a little
really,
bit nervous.
Not really.
I mean,
it was a little.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot going on at the show, but he didn't seem.
But super nice guys.
Well, and you were setting up the camera, but he just in talking to me, he was just apprehensive.
A little bit. I saw it 100%.
Well, apprehensive, and I can see him being apprehensive because because
he
people try to.
He kept, he was just not.
Well, and I think that's because there's a lot of. I mean, I'm not gonna.
He did a great job.
He did a great job, and that's the thing. I don't want to bash the guy.
No, definitely not.
I want to make that clear because.
He did a great job.
But I think there's a lot of not. I don't want to say shysters in the media industry, but I mean, everybody's looking for the gotcha, right? Yeah. Everybody's looking for the gotcha. So, I can see why as a community manager when some random ass podcast with some printed polos show up and say, hey, we want to talk about your game, you're kind of like, oh, am I going to put my foot in my mouth and that now I'm going to have to deal with this crap at work? So I can understand being a little apprehensive.
I mean, that's their job, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to take that. Like,
well, and I think that, and that's one of our goals as a podcast coming to these things. We really want to. I think what we really want is to where we go to these places and they say, you know what, these guys are serious. They interview and ask direct but honest questions. They don't go for the gotcha. They try to comfortably interview and find out information about your game
For sure.
to give it to other people. So, and I think that for the people that we have interfaced with, we have interacted with, that has been the result.
Yep. And I would say that the people that you did, I would say that you probably built more of a rapport this year with developers and companies than last year. You know, these people, after you would do an interview with them to sit and talk for a few minutes, seemed like they wanted to stay in touch longer. We're like, hey, let's have,
Yes.
you know, let's really trade contact information. How can I find you guys? Where can I find you? Send me some information. They requested, you know, send me some stuff about when I can tune in and things like that. So I don't remember a lot of that from the Boston trip, but that's good, you know, to have that kind of a contact at these places.
Yeah, and I think that our goal with this one was more to find those unknown gems. Where I remember in Boston, we interviewed Elite Dangerous. We interviewed, Brendan from PUBG. We interviewed people that are very set already in the industry, and they're not so much like, hey, we want to get people to know about our game. They're more as a service. And I think in this one, our goal is a little bit more of, let's find some of those games that maybe we've mentioned in the past, but let's get some direct contact with the people that are making them and ask them questions about it and see what they think, you know, we should know about the game.
Well, and with that, I think let's transition to another game we talked to,
Yes.
the Dying Light folks. Obviously, Dying Light we've talked about on the show in the past, but they've got a brand new product out. And yes, Dying Light Bad Blood.
Got some hands-on over there.
Got some hands-on, and I'll tell you, man, they've got a new BR game, and I'm not going to go through all the specs. There's going to be an interview that'll be out, but the premise is 12-person BR, and we actually had the opportunity to sit down and all four, us three, and Sean did some B-roll. Sean's behind the camera, by the way, running this, so shout out to Sean.
Say hey, Sean.
Putting this up. There we go. So
He's
Sean's
there.
here. He shot some B-roll of it. Brian, of course, died in the zone twice because he was so
there was
into
a
the
boundary
immersion.
that was
This was
clearly marked and
horrible.
easy to see and understand.
Yeah, so-
you want to tell them about that?
You saw a boundary
I
Well,
did.
so- okay,
I mean,
so
I didn't step
before the game started.
So we played some Dying Light Bad Blood, and that was a cool game. I'd
like to play that game.
Well, you did play, and I mean, I can vouch for it.
The
I played
lobby
it.
was great.
And overall, I thought it was awesome. It's a fun game. It's a kind of a twist on the BR concept. And the guy said something to me that's something that I always say. And Lance, you and I have had this conversation before. He said, you come home from work, or before you go into bed at night, you got an hour, 15 minutes, hour and a half to play video games.
Yep.
You can spend that entire thing. And I mean, he didn't call out PUBG, but he might as well have.
Yeah.
You can spend an hour and a half playing a single game, and you can in PUBG, and not accomplish a whole hell of a lot. That's not a joke. So he kind of called out these games are 10 or 15 minutes, which is super cool.
If you're in a lobby, if you're not up here, then this many people are waiting a lot.
If you're not first, you're last.
Yep.
May as well be.
So I thought that was interesting, right?
It is interesting. I hadn't considered it like that before, and you know the turnover in Dying Light seemed to be a lot faster paced. You know what I'm saying, which was good.
And they were packed, by the way. Their booth was hammered.
And that seemed to be a theme going forward with some of the BR games that we talked to. Of we want to create a shorter BR game because Nick had the opportunity to interview another game that's a BR game, and they said the exact same thing. They were like, we wanted to create a quick BR game that people can get in. They don't have to sit there and spend 45 minutes looting and doing all these things the whole time. They can get in, play a game, and get out. So I think that was something that was a theme that people are not wanting those really long games because your average player can't handle that or doesn't want.
Well, and I just think it comes down to the time restraint.
People are busy, man. People have families, they have lives, they have time constraints. You got to get some sleep. You know, work is a priority. You have a couple hours here and a couple hours there. You know, some of us more than others. So,
and I think Fortnite.
Are you touching my screen too?
I think Fortnite improved on PUBG, which had very long times. I'd say PUBG probably cut those times maybe in half. Depends on the game. The action's a lot quicker in Fortnite than it is in PUBG. But still a long game if you play it all the way through. It'd still be half an hour. 40-minute game if you're playing it all the way through. So they've improved drastically. But now, and I think we talked to the people over at the Tiny Builder booth, and I don't remember the name of the game.
That was Rapture Rejects.
Rejects.
And that's the other one where I was that was what I was mentioning was they had said we wanted to make a BR game that was not so drawn out and long.
Well, and he kind of said the exact same thing, which is it's just there's no reason. I mean, we can make a quick game, and I like the quick game. And the quick game doesn't have to be 12 players. The Rapture Rejects is a 50-person match, and they've got a similar time zone that they're expecting. He said 15, 20-minute games, which I think is great in comparison to games like PUBG and Fortnite. And he even said he thinks that's where the industry is going to go, is these shorter battle royale games, because as Lance just said, people are busy. I mean, if I have an hour to play video games, I don't want to play one game of PUBG if I can play. Call of Duty is a great example. Play 5-6 matches in Call of Duty in an hour, depending on how quick. And same thing with some of these games. You play 3, 4, 5, 6 matches.
And he said that a lot of his motivation for this was playing some Survive.io, which is a free game, an overhead game. But I've seen people. I know that Donnie plays a lot of that, and he really enjoys it because it's a fast-paced game. It doesn't require a ton of time between matches, and the games start quickly. You drop, you're immediately in the game. There's action right away, and it gives you all the same kind of adrenaline and rush and feeling of like, this is fun, as one of these big BR games. But it's not all the running forever through a field. Like, it's a much faster paced game, and so they seem to have taken the Survive.io feel, given it a little bit more of a 3D feel to it, but I think they were able to maintain a lot of that feel, which is good. I think you'll have a set of players that appreciate and enjoy that more than making an Arma clone version of a game or a Daisy clone of a game.
A little disappointed the Daisy folks weren't there. They've just got their game out on Xbox in the past couple days. A little disappointed that they weren't there. I would have loved to have got some hands on with that and talk to somebody about that process.
Yeah.
I think they missed out on a huge opportunity at this show. Lots of people, I'm telling you, man, with the Dying Light booth and the Tiny Builders booth, people were swarmed around lining up to play those kinds of games. And obviously,
right
Daisy's not absolutely. Daisy's not necessarily a BR, but I think the crossover's pretty damn comparable.
Pretty close,
if you're going to be playing something like the Dying Light BR or the Dying Light Bad Blood BR version, you're probably not too far off. I'm interested in playing Daisy. And I think there was a missed opportunity by them at this event.
There were a few titles that weren't there that we felt should have been. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Daisy being one of them. Like Scum was another one.
Scum, I mean, really,
just
incredible.
Like, shouldn't you be there?
Literally
down there
this week
with the fan base. You know what I mean?
And the worst thing there is the publisher, Devolver Digital, was there.
They could have thrown. The thing is, they released their game. They could have thrown 8 PCs along one of those booths. And had people playing it the whole time. Here's probably why. Here's probably why they didn't. Because with Scum, you have to create your character, and they would have had to adjust it to make something that was short or kind of like what.
But just being there is, I mean, you've got a brand new game coming out. You've got one of the PAX West, I think PAX Prime is what they call it, is arguably one of the largest gaming events in North America. Obviously E3, but E3 is a little bit of a different thing. This is I believe this is the largest exhibitor video game event in the country.
I think that they probably felt, though, that having people there for a very limited amount of time, playing something that you can't really get into the groove of what maybe Scum requires. It's a much more drawn out game,
right?
In a management of your health, the management of your character.
And how about name recognition? I mean, that's what this comes down to.
They should have done something
big ass
where
Scum sign.
It was at least shown,
absolutely.
Right? But I think that they probably wanted to do something like these other guys, the Rapture Rejects. They made a smaller map, quicker, fast-paced for just this event. I think if Scum could have gotten something where it takes you through the character creation, does some limited amount of things without having all of the rest of it on there, they would have had something they can show and probably not been so nervous that people would be like, well, I went and played it, but I didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's what they're afraid of.
So rather no message than a poor message?
I think they're rather no message than a poor message. And maybe now that it's released and they have time between this and probably the next show that comes out, maybe they'll create something that's a more of a polished thing that will condense something.
Overall, a little disappointed by that.
Yeah, it would have been nice for us at least to talk to them. That's what we want.
It's not often that you have a brand new game onto the survival scene, and we get it on here so close to an event like PAX West, and you hope they're out there, especially when their publisher's out there, which means they could probably get an in somewhere. Not necessarily at the Devolver booth, but there's people you can contact to get a hookup. to get a booth.
Rapture Rejects actually did say that they made a smaller map so they could host 5-on-5s just for this event. So
because they normally don't do 5-on-5.
It's 50,
right?
50 player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
that game's gonna be crazy with 50 players.
Yeah, right.
And he said he's added a bunch more weapons to it, and the weapons are unique because they'll have different effects and area of effects as well. So it's not just run and shoot.
Well, but if you look at Survive.io, it starts out with a larger number of players, but the way they spread it out, like it feels very natural. It feels like what you had there. I think what they did is try to capture that feel that, not that they're trying to copy Survive.io, but they know that works, right?
Right.
I think they were trying to capture that feel, and so they got it down from watching Nick play. I think they got it down.
I won, by the way.
Yes, Nick got first place. I think that they got it down to the size that it did need to be to feel like Survive.io is with 50.
Right.
So if you felt like that was good, like what you would play felt good, I think that with the 50 players on the larger map, the way that they spread it out, I think it will feel the same way. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's very good to hear. So BR had a large presence out there. We got an interview with both Dying Light Bad Blood and what's it, Rapture Rejects. We've got interviews with both of them that you'll be coming to the YouTube channel and the show very soon. I believe those were the only two the BRs that were being shown. Obviously, Asus and stuff had PUBG and Fortnite being played at their tables, but they were just kind of showing off. They just had little tournaments going on, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we covered the BR stuff that was at PAX West. Let's transition over to Lance's shirt, which is something that
Look at Lance Flex.
Good looking shirt, and
it's like a poster board. Here. So if you guys recognize this, this is Rend.
R-E-N-D.
Yep. You guys have heard about it. You talked about
It's
this
a game that
show.
I brought up a couple weeks ago, I think, because they just had released or announced. And so we knew going into it that it was something we might be interested in.
And by the way, we'll cut you off real quick. This was another one of these games that were nestled into the Twitch booth. Not something we couldn't prepare for. Right? They did not have a booth. They were nestled into the Twitch, similar to the way what Realm Royale is into Facebook. Which is why we come to these shows. Because you would never even think about content.
Well, it was interesting, right? So, and what it seemed like is they didn't spend the money on a giant booth. It's like you said, they were nestled in somewhere. Yep. We saw them as we were walking by.
Like, holy shit, that's Rent, yeah.
Right, we're like, yeah, we know what this is. So we started talking to the guy, and they actually scheduled us to meet across the street at Sheraton in like a conference room where they actually had developers and their marketing people and a whole thing set up where you could go some hands-on.
Yep.
And I thought that was interesting. You wouldn't have known they were even there, ever talked to them, or ever got an interview had you not been linked up.
Gone and
like
made that contact. You would have to go and ask and say, we would like to. And that's one thing we got very comfortable doing is say, we'd like to talk to a developer.
Sure.
And how about this? If you were to look at the exhibitor guide, you would not know that they were there. There was zero way to know that they were there.
It seems all they're doing is kind of keeping people playing and moving along in the demo.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't know, like we've kind of figured out over time, okay, that guy is probably the community manager there.
Almost every booth we talked to, the community manager was either the one talking to us or was there.
I mean, they're easy to spot, right?
Yeah. And so we went and talked to him and just said, hey, can we line something up? And he made it happen, and that was a very good interview.
What is Rend? I know you got an interview with them, but real quick for people watching, what is Rend?
So Rend is a kind of open world.
Like a PlanetSide 2
30.
survival.
It's a faction base, so it's was it 30 or 20?
20 players.
So it's 20 people per faction. So you have 60 players on a server, and it is kind of a competition. I mean, you're doing competition against those other factions, but the 20 of you work together to level up. I guess abilities. You have your personal abilities. You have group abilities
as a whole.
You have faction abilities. And so you're trying to conquer, and I'm trying to remember the exact terms they used because they used some specific.
They did, and this will all be in the interview.
Yeah. There's a longer interview.
We try to, as that 20-player group, you try to conquer and pretty much win that match, which is an extended period of time. It's not like an hour. It's not a day.
It's like a month.
Yeah, over a month, you're playing and trying to beat this objective, and then if you do, you actually get like bonus points, or you get bonus skills that you're able to level up
Right.
That carry over and give you benefits in the next match. But I
Some
guess
of them are just skins and stuff like that, but they may also have little buffs and things like that attached.
maybe
to
you
them,
start with he was saying, maybe you craft arrows and stuff like that, or bows or certain weapons. You can get then a buff that makes it so you start out with those weapons, just to kind of get you started in the next one a little bit faster.
Give you a little bit of a flag up. I'll tell you what it reminded me of. It felt to me like a faction-based arc that had an end game. It had an objective, and once you hit the end of the month and that faction wins, that clan wins, everybody starts over again and we start building again. Which maybe you'll approach it from a different direction, or maybe you'll be staged in a different area, like a swamp biome or the forest biome. It's where you may not have had access to before as much because it's locked down. This is he talked about the balancing of those different regions and areas, so that no matter where you spawned, you wouldn't feel like you were, the underdog or in a disadvantage of some kind. They're really working on trying to balance out that feel of it. So, it was really interesting to see, and it was a Nordic theme, right? It was all like, Valhalla, Vikings, hammers and axes. It was pretty cool.
And what I thought was very interesting is I keep going back to PlanetSide 2 because it's got that similar concept. You're fighting against two other groups of people. There's 3 per. In PlanetSide 2, it's worlds that you're in or whatever.
Okay.
But this one's got base building.
Oh,
you build a base, and the base building is super cool.
Snapping
base, and it allows you to plan out the base with a blueprint and then add the materials to it later.
And so we can have people in the clan or whatever you want to call it that are sitting there and working towards getting that completed over time. So this is our biggest complaint as a group of players. Is first of all, either we all have to be on at the exact same time, or no progress can be made.
Right.
Or it's something to where people are going and doing their own thing, and they're really kind of messing up the overall, like what the clan is supposed to be doing with the base. Like
the design directions being pulled in different directions.
Yeah, that we may not have as good of a base as we possibly could because people are just adding and doing whatever. This allows you to go through and design the base, and then people that as they're on or doing stuff throughout the day can log in and help get it completed.
But the structure of it, how they went about it, was kind of cool. It wasn't immersion breaking like it was a hologram or anything like that. It was like if you wanted a wall there, you get some base building materials, craft just like a frame with some twine.
Like the forest.
Right. I haven't played a lot of the forest, but you guys said it was a lot like that.
Yeah.
You would kind of mock up the walls and the stairs and everything, and
It's
then the members of the
material.
team, the members of the team, whenever they were online or whenever they did have a chance, maybe only had about an hour to play, tomorrow night, I can jump on, I can see what everybody's trying to do, even though no one else may be on. I can go over some materials, I can help, you know what I mean? And then everybody logs back on, I was like, oh dude, somebody built all the walls up, that's awesome, let's go ahead and, reinforce them, let's move up to stone or whatever the situation may be. So that was really cool.
And the folks over at Red were very generous to us. I think we're going to have a good relationship going forward. They actually met with us twice.
So nice.
They did probably a 20-minute demo where they sat down, they pulled us in front of the engine. Literally, the icon was the Unreal Engine. They were flying us all around, looking at different things. Some of the stuff is embargoed until Tuesday.
Some stuff won't. And that's the tough thing is that's why I'm not saying too much specifics about it, because there were things that they showed us in that meeting that were embargoed. That Tuesday, when we do our live interview,
we'll be airing.
Or when we do the pre-recorded interview, one thing I did say is this will not show until Tuesday, so you're free to say the things that you're wanting us to not talk about yet. Let's talk about them now, because when we play this live one, that'll be very fresh. That'll be instant news that was actually announced that day that we do this live, the next live show that we do.
And they were super generous. They showed us the game for 20 minutes or so. We looked at it, we said, okay, great. And then as we were thinking about it last night, I said, we need to interview these guys. We need to bring something back.
We need to have a sit down.
And they did offer to come on the show, and they will. They will be on the show very soon.
Said reach out to us.
But we wanted something, so I sent an email late last night to their marketing director,
Michelle.
Michelle, yes, Michelle was awesome.
She was awesome.
So I sent an email to Michelle and said, hey, do you have 5 minutes for a quick interview? And she's, of course. And Brian interviewed one of the developers for damn near 12 or 13 minutes. It was a super long interview.
And Michelle had been around the gaming industry before. So
she actually worked on the
She actually worked at Daybreak. Well, maybe
actually,
then it was Sony Online. Yeah, so she actually worked at Sony Online, so she was like, I thought I kind of recognized.
I said, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
You guys look a little familiar,
the
right?
Infection podcast. So, and I was like, yeah, you probably did.
But now, real quick, I want to go back to something that you mentioned, Lance, because you mentioned Ark, and we've played games like Ark, and we're hoping to pay this new 7 Days to Die update whenever they decide they're going to actually release an update. When they
Waiting
do.
on it.
But we always have the burnout factor. This was your tip of the week last week. You get burnt out. But with this now, you play for a month and you're back. You just restart the whole game, and it's not this, well, I kind of did everything I wanted to do. Now it's like, well, hey.
There's a forced restart. There's a short goal.
Hey, this other team whooped our ass because of this, this, and this. So now we need to do this, this, and this to get on them.
Right.
And they're going to change their strategy, and you're going to change yours. I feel like if this could be a game, this could be a life game. This is a game you play all the time.
Well, the model definitely could be. I think
Yeah.
we're going to see more of this type of model. You know what I mean? Because like we as a community have jumped in public servers before and built up and seen the different factions and been, had some rivalries and been kind of, cool with other people. But at some point, the biggest dog in the cage is going to start smacking people down.
And they did.
And they did, and that's just the way it is, right? However, this is going to prevent that a little bit. There will always be people who have more time and can contribute more, but this kind of levels the playing field, even though monthly wipes, some people may kind of be
well, it's actually not a month. It's whenever the game finishes. They originally thought it would
take about a month.
So when one group reaches that objective,
goal,
which at the beginning will probably be a month, but as the game kind of moves further away from its launch, it may transition into a 2 or 3 month thing to win. That's the cool thing about it is it's not every 30 days it's a wipe. It's whenever a team, I think what they say, 100,000 or 10,000 points, whatever the point system was.
It was a lot.
And there's a tree in the middle that shows the progress bar, which is
if you want to see where everybody's at, you can go to this giant Valhalla tree or whatever it's called in the middle. Then you can kind of look and see the magic progression growing up the side of it. It's pretty cool. It's interesting though. We just talked about how fast we are games. We want games that are going to get us in and out really quick, but we're also talking about one that game that can take a month.
That's the thing is we want games that will
being clever
keep our attention.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing, and that's why I was talking about that burnout, because we play games so much, and then half of the group is like, I don't want to see that game again. And so if you can get one that says,
Ark, there's a lot of people.
But if it was limited to a month, if we only played Ark at 1 month period, like 1 month at a time, we'd still be playing it. The thing is because people sit there and one person plays it for 6 months, another person plays it for 3 months straight. Like, we're not on the same schedule. And I think with this...
You spend your whole Thanksgiving taming a dinosaur.
I think with Ark, they tried to solve this with those extinction servers.
Yeah.
They tried to... but I don't think that's the perfect solution for Ark. Because Ark isn't made to be that kind of a game.
No, it's not. You don't get anything done in a month in Ark. Christ, we played for 2.5 months and we barely scratched the surface, and we were getting help from people that were much higher levels. This game is designed to play until a goal is reached and reset. And that's appealing.
But it allows you to take things you worked super hard for or some iteration of them on with you as you evolve. And that was really cool,
Well, I think these guys had because they have one of them has some WoW background, I think they pulled in enough, and we've got people that are playing WoW.
You included.
Who you are.
And they appreciate, there's certain things to appreciate about that kind of a game, right? I think when he showed us the mounts and things like that is a big deal.
Everything is a mount.
Any animal, and I hope this is something where
I don't remember what we were or weren't.
I think the animals already.
I don't think that was embargoed.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think he was.
Well,
I thought he was telling me
There's lots of
no.
other stuff here to cover. There's lots of other stuff here to
But
cover.
I would just stop it.
Okay, so we will. I don't want to break our embargo, but that thing that we're going to talk about on Tuesday, because it'll be in Tuesday.
Yep.
That's something that for some people will be that short term. That'll be an objective and a status symbol, and I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah. So that was Ren. The folks are super nice. We're gonna stay up with them. We're hopefully they did mention when we were leaving today a possibility of getting some keys to give away. So I don't know if that'll be happening Tuesday, but within the near future, we'll have them on the show, of course. But we may have some keys to give away and get some people interested.
That'd be so awesome.
I don't remember the price point. I know it's on. Sean, could you look? Jamie, could you get us the?
Jamie, pull that up.
Can you get us the price point? I want to say it was $29, or maybe it was 19.
It was something.
They called
like
it
20...
a mid-priced game, so it's not a $60 title, but $30.
It was like $29.
I'm telling you, man, we saw a lot of games at PAX.
Lowering their price point.
This is good.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is and is this something that's carried over from console? Because consoles always seem to price their games at $60.
$59.99.
That's the magic.
That was a magic number, and now
walk into a GameStop. Every game on the shelf is $59.99.
And so I think that all these games got into that mindset when all of a sudden games were available on console and PC. Now all these PC games are like, well, I guess we got to match the console price, right? So then they started matching all these PC games at $60.
Well, AAA titles still do, or they try to. You know
but
what I mean?
but I think that that's not your average, I think that it's hard to get a lot of players into a game and all your friends in a game when it's priced at $60.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I don't want to make any broad generalizations. All of us in life are pretty well off, right?
We're not third world.
No, but I'm just saying in general. I mean, all of us are pretty well. Hey, Christ, we're sitting in Seattle right now. We played video game for the last 4 days.
We can afford games.
We can afford games. But there's something about $60 that you don't want to take a gamble. I mean, I don't want to rip. I mean, I don't want to rip up $60 and throw it down the sewer. I don't want to do it with 30 either. But I'm much more likely to do it. Scum is a great example.
I don't
care.
risk it because you're not throwing it away if you're getting something for it.
I don't. Scum is $19. It's a $20 title. I'm buying it no matter what because it's at the price where it's worth the gamble. $60 is, I mean, $6 is $60.
That could be 3 games. So I think in your mind you're like that could be 3 games.
Yeah, I mean,
or it's just one that might not be that great.
3 unknown games or one guaranteed.
$20 is a meal out at a restaurant. We've been eating out this whole week. $20 is a burger and some fries and a drink at a restaurant. Right.
Yeah.
$60 is a damn steak. It's a nice meal. So it's just there's just that difference.
It is, but one meal over a game you might play for a couple of months, even longer. I mean, that's
the thing is most of these titles that are $60 now, people aren't playing them more than 2 months.
Yeah, Call of Duty is a great example. I mean,
people play it for a couple months, and
I don't want to talk about Call of Duty.
They play it for a couple months, and then they're done.
Wait till Christmas.
And so I think with these different games, it's hard to it's hard to get a game that you pay $60 for that you're playing a year later. Like you don't see those very often.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why this price point I think it's good. Obviously, it sells more copies, but I think at the end of the day, it's good for the consumer because people are willing to take the risk. I think on 30, people are willing to take a risk on either. Yeah. Much more willing to take a risk on $30. That looks interesting. You know what? I'm going to give it a try.
And you want those player numbers to be up. I mean, that's the thing is these games, if they're reliant on online player base, you need to have enough people to where it's a full world that's always populated.
Yeah. But that takes a lot of food out of developers' mouths, I mean, I guess they look at it and they say, well, if we can get the game out there at a base price, say something that's a mid-range point, then, they fall back on saying, we'll turn around and make that money up with skins, or maybe we can make it up with other transactions. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it seems like, wow, they're getting their profits cut in half, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're just like, here, we're going to put it out here, and then we're going to let you add on to it as we go along.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how this model will play out,
And so I guess we'll leave that with Ren for right now. We're going to have I don't know if it'll be exclusive, but we'll have a premiere interview with them on Tuesday that Brian recorded today. When I believe there's a patch going out 8 a.m. Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
And some of that content is in our interview, which will air live Tuesday night on the normal show, and then it'll make it onto YouTube a little bit later on that evening or Wednesday morning. So Ren was super cool, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to go check them out. Let's see who else we have here on our list. How about a game that, Brian, you talked about a couple of weeks ago, Generation Zero. And that's a game that's being made by THQ Nordic. And this is a Left 4 Dead style game, but there's mechs, and there's robots, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
super interesting.
And Lance and I,
you guys played.
Lance and I went through and played this a little bit, and it's a kind of a cooperative. You're going through what looks like somewhat of a story mode. I mean, because Left 4 Dead is kind of the same thing. Yeah. You go through a story, it kind of unfolds it, and you're going through these levels. But this was in an 80s time frame.
It's in Sweden or Norway or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where. I didn't catch where it was.
I didn't chime on that it wasn't even in the U.S. It didn't.
No, it was. It was. They said it's wherever the game is being developed.
But it felt like it was interesting. You're right, Brian, because the age of the developers, they were all like, hey, you know what? We're gonna do something in a time frame that we're familiar with and that we are nostalgic to. So they were like, we're gonna do this like in the 80s. Yeah. And I think that what they put together looked really well. It felt really well. I mean, I was alive in the '80s, and it was reminiscent. I was like, wow, the old bicycle, just little things like, well, there's a BMX over there. What, you know what I mean?
The stuff that we remember seeing and growing up with. They were that was the environment for this game. But then there's mechs going around and things that you're fighting.
Yep.
And I guess you're trying to kind of unfold the story. And this is something that I don't think we could really get gameplay. They asked us not to record it.
They did.
If I remember correctly.
Well, they've got gameplay online, but they only want the stuff they pushed out to go up. But you did interview.
We can talk about some of the mechanics though, right? I mean, like the gunplay felt good. You know, there were things like EMPs that you could throw out and generally disrupt electricity in an area, so you could knock out all the mechs. And there were like flares you could throw them that they would scan onto, and they would go over and follow on track, which allowed you to sneak past or sneak up behind them and catch them by surprise. And also one of the things that I really liked, and it seems like a minor detail, but when you would go up to a vehicle to search it, you would go up, you would search it, you actually open the door, and you could physically see the object sitting there. It wasn't like searching car, and a timer goes around and it says, you found shotgun shells. You actually open the door and looked inside, and you're like, oh, there's a shotgun on the floorboard. You could pull it out, go and look in the back, see, pop the trunk, look in the trunk, oh, there's a battery, we're going to take the battery. We'll do something with this. And the guy's looking it around. I just thought that was nice. It helps with the immersion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the Dying Like Bad Blood had the same thing. You open the cabinet and the weapon is sitting on the shelf,
which is like you're searching a cabinet.
Yeah, which I know. I mean, the hourglass. Search 5 seconds till search, and it's tough for the survival games to do that. Obviously, 100 players on a server. Yeah. But that was a nice mechanic.
It was.
It was cool to see.
It was limited to 4 people though. That was our
it's like a 4-player co-op that you kind of play through the story. So it's not like a huge online multiplayer, but it is something that you can play with 3 other friends, go through and experience the story. And I mean, that's exactly the same as what Left 4 Dead does. It's kind of that feel of how you go through it.
But it was polished.
It didn't feel like Left 4 Dead. I mean, as far as we could draw comparisons of just the style of the way that you progress through a level and things like that, but it was its own unique feel of how the game felt.
And what engine did they talk about the engine at all? I don't know if they got into
it. It's their engine.
Is that a proprietary
thing? It's something from THQ. Yeah, it's the same one that they did. What were the other games that they did on that? Cause? Just Cause? Was it Just Cause?
Is it the Just Cause engine?
Because
that's THQ's not Just Cause, I don't think.
The game they had right next to it with the rat with the or the raccoon with the implant.
Yeah, but that was
something else.
But they had mentioned.
Jamie, can you find THQ's engine?
Yeah.
I thought.
I don't remember what it.
I thought it was Just Cause.
Frame something. It may have been Just Cause.
Either way,
it's the one where you fly around. You're able to like.
I mean, that is Just Cause, but I don't know if that's THQ.
I thought it was Just Cause's engine.
But I was really excited. After I got done playing it, I wanted to play it again, and that's a great sign. It wasn't like, okay, well, let's go on to the next booth. I was like, this is pretty tight. I want to sit down and really, get some time in on it. So,
interview with them. That'll be making its way to YouTube here shortly.
Also, another really nice group of people. I'm very excited about their product. They weren't like they were just there going through the motions. She was legit. Like, let me tell you about this. Let me show you about this. And that was great.
I don't want to come at anybody here that is at PAX. There was a lot of people that got media badges. We stood in a very long media line to get in day one.
Yeah.
And it seemed like developers were not getting interviewed.
Yeah.
And I just got to wonder what in the hell these other media people are doing.
So that's the thing.
I'm not trying to come at media, but
I thought the exact same thing. Earlier, I don't know if it was last night or this morning, I was thinking about, because we were in this line and there was hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands.
Sean, how many people would you say were in that line, that media line? 200 people?
More than that. Way more than 200.
Okay, so there may have been 500 people standing in the media line. This was at 9 a.m. on Friday, an hour before they let everybody else in.
And there would be lots more media. Those are just the people that bothered to show up for that.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, all these people that are media, and we really hardly saw anyone else doing an interview. I mean, I don't really recall.
Now, there are a lot of blogs and stuff like that where it's a little bit different. When we show up to do an interview, we're rolling 4 people deep. We got a camera, lights, microphone. We're blocking off the area.
That first day, there was people carrying around cameras and stuff.
Move back.
But I don't really remember seeing them for the rest of the show.
Yeah, I mean, you did. And again, I'm not trying to come at PAX or come at people with media. A lot of the people we interviewed they would say, "Oh, first interview of the day," and it's 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, this."
It's just strange to me that we didn't see throughout the day a number of cameras being set up and interviews happening.
And I wonder if that's why people were so generous. I mean, I appreciate everybody being generous to us, but I wonder I wonder if it's because there's the media in general is just kind of walking around looking, not necessarily.
I bet you
bringing
that,
something back.
that most of these guys that are doing these interviews, first of all, they're sent by somebody. They probably don't care personally about these products that they're coming to see.
That's a broad generalization.
But I'm saying there's probably a lot of them that this is their job. Like, this is their job. They go and they have specific interviews that they need to go get. The ones that are the top dollar interviews, right?
Well, like IGN was there, right? They're going to have pre-scheduled stuff.
Yeah.
Their reporter's going to come in, do their 4 interviews. Live here at PAX, I'm out.
And they head
They're
out.
always talking to the little guy.
They hit the bar.
Yeah, and I don't think that they're wandering around and looking for those interviews and going to get those the niche interviews that we're trying to get.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're just going after. We aren't interviewing Valve in their new card game. We're interviewing Tiny Builder in the games.
I didn't get that at all. But I'm not in the card game.
But the thing is we could have turned around and interviewed Valve just for the sake of interviewing Valve. But you know what? That's not a game that would purely be just us interviewing the big dog.
Weren't
right?
you bummed by that? Weren't you just like, I wanted to see something else?
Valve, who has not done anything
their
since
booth
Portal
was
2.
that their booth was just a card game that I was like, okay.
2013 Portal came out. Sean, do you know when Portal came out? 2011, 2013?
We could hear some Black Mesa, like Mr. Freeman
think
stuff
Portal
again.
2?
You know what I'm saying? But
Portal 2.
Yeah, I want to say some
So
2011
you're saying the
or so.
last one?
That's the last game they released, Portal 2.
Yeah.
They haven't done it. They have not released a game since Portal 2. Now, they did buy Campo Santo, which is Firewatch, but that's not their game. And they own the studio now.
Yeah. Well, and that is something strange. We could have gone through and done that interview, but that's the one that all those companies are doing.
Well, and I guess it's because Valve is, I mean, obviously Steam is...
Dota 2. Came out.
Dota 2 did come out. When did that come out?
2013.
2013, okay. Nevertheless, been a while.
Yeah.
And obviously Valve being there, if Valve vanished tomorrow, PC gaming as it exists right now would be a minefield. I mean, it would practically cease to exist.
Right.
And you have very few games. Anything that's on Battle.net or Uplay or EA's Origin, everything else would cease to exist. So when they're there, obviously it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I was hoping there'd be a little more, but it was just their card game. We've got these patches here. We went over this morning and talked.
Where'd you get that patch, Nick?
I got this patch over when we ran into our friend Brandon over at
Where at?
that was at the I don't remember the name of the theater.
Battle Royale Battlegrounds Theater.
Yeah, the Battlegrounds
The
Theater.
Paramount, was it the Paramount?
The Paramount Theater in Seattle. We had the opportunity this morning to.
I'll throw some pictures in Discord. While
Yeah, we'll throw some pictures in there. There's stuff on our Twitter too.
I don't know what's going on.
It's at InfectionCast, CAST, and Brandon, of course, recognized us as we were rolling into the booth or rolling into his
And that's
thing
part
this
of
morning.
that's part of that relationship, though, too. That's something that is a benefit of us coming here. Is last year we were able to shake hands and do an interview and talk to him and get to know him, right? Get to know. I mean, not like we're sitting down and having dinner with him, but sit and
Have a couple drinks by the fire.
We talked to him.
Paramount.
We talked to him before the interview started, and we talked to him after the interview ended, and just kind of said, "Hey, and just had a little normal talk.
Yeah.
It wasn't all business." And I think that here, when we went and saw him today, I mean, he was like, "Hey, he recognized us. We were able to sit and we just talked to him and said, how's everything going?" And he was very frank. He talked to us very normally, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it wasn't like an interview. He just was like just shooting shit.
Yeah.
The demeanor wasn't. It was, hey man, what's going on?
Which I've always liked
let
about
me
him.
tell you
He's always been like that. Which
He is,
cool.
yeah. He seems really genuine. Yeah, he comes off as a good
and they
guy.
didn't really have anything here to talk about at PAX West, but he said when they released their snow
update.
patch, their snow update, a little bit later on this year, he'll come on the show and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Fix Your Game program or Fix PUBG program and some of the other stuff going on. So it's cool to run into Brandon, but we've got these patches, and I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera here, Sean, but there's a possibility of getting a couple of these different designs here. And Lance, do you have your patch with you? So let's open these up. Let's see what
See what
we
he's
got.
Completely
Cursing out.
random now.
This is some gambling, Brian.
This is from the
Would you approve of this
Velcro
one?
Patch
Yeah.
Crate Series 1 from PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
This is riveting audio content. Oh, it looks like there's two badges. Oh, no, there's only one. Okay, let's see. What did we get? Ooh, I've got the
What'd you get?
7.62 ammo box.
Let me see.
What'd you guys get?
Pretty good. I got the M18 Smoke Bomb.
Ah, there we go.
And I got the M67 for delay hand grenade.
Come on,
Let
come on.
me see.
man.
Let me see.
Oh, there we go.
Let me see.
Sean, do you hold these all up to the camera for?
Well, he's got the same as me, so we can.
It's gambling.
Well, hey,
That's
it's a lottery system.
That's cool.
I don't know
So
if
yeah,
I want to go to
and
the airport with this. So I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, put it on.
These are legit patches that you would. My joke.
The
You know what we
quality
should do?
is the rubber and stuff.
What, let me
You
see
can
one of
leave
those.
that You don't want that one. You can still pack it.
Can I see one of those real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
I think we should take this and put it right there. Right over, right over the shit, right over the HNC logo.
Podcast.
Yeah.
So that was cool. We had the opportunity to talk to him and a couple of the PR people. That's legit.
Yeah,
That's
they're
a real Velcro too.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
You
PUBG,
can slap it off and take it
PUBG
off.
had a freaking
You rip it off and
street.
throw it. It's your smoke grenade.
They had a freaking street in downtown Seattle closed
Yeah, that was crazy.
so that they had crates and parachutes and cars that were
Music
on
and
fire.
smoke.
I'll put some pictures of it in Discord.
I mean, they're a big deal. Them and they themselves and Fortnite both
Blocked
had
off the whole street.
huge presence
Yeah.
at PAX West this year, and both were oriented around fans, which I like.
It wasn't so much about demoing their game because they know that people already know about their game.
As the guy from, in Fortnite told us, you can play Fortnite on every effing device that is out there, literally any platform. There's nobody
He's
wants
like,
to come
we
here
want
to
to
play.
do something. We want to do something for the players. It's
Yeah.
not about having people come in here into a booth and play our game, which they can play anywhere.
Yeah, literally.
Or it's about
And they have.
creating the
Yeah.
miniature golf. That they did miniature golf where you could go through and play, and it was Fortnite themed.
Yeah, which looked really cool. And
Mm-hmm.
There's some video that we'll probably show that. We may show that on Tuesday of the Fortnite mini golf.
Yeah.
I'll put some pictures of that in Discord.
Cool, yeah.
Yes.
So that was PUBG. Saw him, saw Brandon, said hello. Met a couple of the other folks at PUBG, and yeah, they did a grand tournament. I don't remember what it was called. The grand final, grand finale, something like that.
No.
Trying to get that wristband. What does it say?
It says
Broadcaster Royale.
Broadcaster
Royale.
Royale.
Yep.
So they did a big event here, as well as Fortnite. They both had big tournaments that they both had taking place here. So that was that. Saw Fortnite, did the mini golf. There wasn't really a whole lot to do with that. You actually, Brian, ran into our friend Myth.
Yeah, and so I don't know how much of the story we should go into, but
I wouldn't go into a whole lot. Just
But we went up there, and we were not going to see Myth.
Yeah.
We went up there just to talk to some of the people that were they weren't really Epic employees there, but just saying, hey, what can we see? We wanted to see with the miniature golf. Go check it out. We walked through, took some pictures of the miniature golf, some video, and then we went upstairs. And of course, Lance, being the ultimate PR man, said, "Can we get some? Can we get into one of the tournaments to maybe do some video?"
They're doing pre-qualifications
The
in like a conference.
pre-qualifiers.
We want to compete, so listen.
And so this guy started to just explain to us about the pre-qualifiers, and he said, people, we have the public coming in and playing and qualifying for this tournament, so it's all people from the public. And I just said, so you're telling me that someone like Myth has to come in here and pre-qualify? And he's like, well, we have kind of special arrangements for them. And he said, hold on 1 minute. And so he walked to another room, and and Sean was there looking through the door. I don't know what he was looking at, but and he was like, Myth's in there. I was like, and Myth came walking out. And he was like, "Hey, Infection Podcast," and we said hi to each other. It was we've talked, but it was a chance to shake his hand. I told him good luck.
Yeah.
And he had to go down because he was actually walking out of that room to go downstairs and play in that tournament that we then saw on TV.
Which, by the way, the Epic, they had literally transformed a parking lot in downtown Seattle into a sporting venue
with the giant screen.
I mean, they literally. I mean, I can only imagine how much it costs to rent that parking lot out in Seattle.
And close down city streets.
I mean,
next to a convention
built like a concert venue in this parking lot, loaded up with beanbags, broadcaster row, computers, massive TV screen, jumbotron that you'd see in a football stadium.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
for people that want to sit here and crap on Fortnite. I mean, they know. I mean, they know they're doing so well, and they're marketing the crap out of their game, and it's working. I mean, they literally had a full-fledged freaking video game tournament in the parking lot in Seattle. And that's nuts.
They built a mini putt-putt course inside of a theater, and it was pretty crazy.
And it was all. That's the thing. It wasn't like some things here and there. They put fake grass through the whole building.
They wrapped an entire glass entrance. I mean, you're Lance. You kind of work in that space a little bit. What would you estimate the cost of wrapping?
It was thousands of dollars.
Thousands just to wrap, and it literally just said Fortnite. I mean, there's no reason to do it.
It was thousands in material alone, not even considering the printing
labor
time, the over laminating time, the labor, the installation, the renting of bucket trucks to put this stuff on windows. You know, I mean, it was a lot involved. You know, so
and then they
spent millions of dollars at PAX West with the whole thing. They had staff everywhere, millions of dollars.
Well, and even the walls.
For no reason.
They actually put, rather than having the normal walls of the building, they had like a
subwall.
A subwall that they put on the outside that was wrapped so that it looked like the sky and clouds through the whole building.
Yep.
It was insane.
They also had like people dressed up as characters, like prominent characters.
The tree, the bush.
The tree was the
best.
Bush.
They had a man in a bush costume running around.
If you
like
play Fortnite, you've seen the. And he would tiptoe over and he'd squat down. He was a bush, and he would pick up and he would go sit down by employees, and they would just be like, "The bush is behind me." And they would look around, and he was going around kind of pranking people, but it was fun. It was genuinely good.
And that's it. It's genuine, right?
Yeah,
I mean, clearly
they weren't doing it.
This game is free, by the way. Let me just remind everybody.
The golf thing?
Fortnite is free.
The Fortnite in general.
Fortnite is a free game. You buy skins. Fortnite is free, and the fact that the fact that they dropped millions of dollars to just be. I mean, that mini golf. We talked to the guy. He said, we're not talking because this is for the fans.
Yeah.
It's for the community.
I wanted you to get to that point.
That's
for
awesome.
Sure. Yes. Yep. He was like, this is just to be cool. That's all it is.
Yeah.
We just want people to come by and be like, "Oh man, Fortnite, what?" And they want to run in here and play. They were making no money. There was nothing to buy there. It was just go in there and play in that specific area.
And by the way, people were lining up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Just
10 a.m. is when it opened.
To get a time.
To get a time to play. They were lining up 4 hours before the doors opened.
And it was all. And he's emphasized, like, this is just for the fans.
Yeah.
This is just so people who like Fortnite can come and have something cool to do and say they did today. That's all. That's all this is about.
And I appreciate that.
That's really cool.
That's a lost art.
It says a lot
in video games.
It says a lot about their intent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Epic's a good company, and that's very obvious when they're willing to shell out all this money, which they don't need to. I mean, they could sit back and back out in Cary, North Carolina, in their studios and their offices and say, "Oh, Mr. Moneybags, bring in another pile of money for me to sit on." But no, they're shelling out millions of dollars to just be here, to be with the communities, be with the fans, and give back. Exactly. So that was really cool to see. PUBG did the same thing, by the way, and so did Twitch. All of them were there to just give back to the community. Twitch is maybe a little bit different, but PUBG, same thing. Give back to the community, be in there, and do all that stuff.
Yeah, it was impressive, man.
Let's see. Oh, we saw the new Friday the 13th, essentially.
Yes.
This game called Last Year.
Yes.
And we've been talking about recently, F-13 is pretty much closed due to a
licensing,
intellectual property issue.
Yeah. They've had some kind of issue.
I feel bad for them. They've really got the short end of that stick.
Imagine being on that team, developing for so long, putting
and
so
then
much
having
into
the rug pulled out,
and then have one little thing like a technicality or whatever shut you down.
Yep.
Shut you down.
Yeah. So we saw this game out here, and we'll have an interview for them as well. It was called Last Year Something Blood.
The Nightmare.
Not Last Year the Nightmare.
Yeah, I think the other part.
Set in a high school.
Yep.
Similar to F-13. It's 4 players and a
monster. Whatever.
He's got an axe. He's a hunter or something.
Well, there's
serial
different
killer.
ones. There was like the big one.
Did you play as him?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
you did.
I didn't play as him.
I never played as him.
He was in a PC, or was it a person?
No, it was a person.
So it was a 5th person playing that. Okay.
Yeah. So it's 5 people, 4 kind of survivors, and then somebody that's trying to sabotage them.
And people have different roles. You have a healer. You have an engineer. And then you have 2 DPS characters, pretty much assault characters, what they called them, and you would have to go through, do a couple objectives, and then escape at the end. And so it was something that the one thing that I think kind of hurt our play of it was the audio wasn't working for hearing the other players correctly. I think the other team that was next to us could hear each other because you could hear them saying things to each other.
There's one guy that
was really
every move. Turn left, turn, open the door, shut the door, come up behind me. Okay, guy, carry the thing. We were like, dude, chill out for a second, please.
That was the thing I didn't even realize because I never heard anyone say anything the whole time. And then you and Sean had mentioned that you could hear some people once in a while. And so I didn't even realize that was a thing. But I think that would have added to it a lot if I would have been able to say, hey, because I was just kind of pulling my ear off, my headphone off my ear, and kind of saying to Nick, oh hey, this guy's coming or this guy's down over here.
Right.
But it would have been a lot better if that part would have been functioning properly.
Yeah, so the game itself was interesting, and I mean, they're not going to call it Friday the 13th, but I mean, the concept was almost the same. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm just saying it's very similar to F-13.
Well, there were things that made it stand out. Like, I didn't notice any kind of a hiding scenario.
No.
For Friday the 13th, you can slide under a bed. You can stand inside a closet and hold your breath. You know what I mean? I didn't see a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
You had to be active, and working together as a team.
Oh, and you could revive people, too. So
yeah. Oh, that was cool, yeah.
But they respawned, and then they had to be rescued.
Yeah. You can be in a down state.
But if they died, then they would respawn in like a closet across the way or in a room that then someone had to get to that, open the door, and then the player could come back in.
Or whatever, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw that, and here's the most interesting thing, I think, is something that Brian and I have talked about in the past, is they had a big Discord banner on their booth. It said exclusively on Discord. And this will be coming up in the interview, but their game is going to be exclusive for 90 days only on Discord.
Yep.
And that's big. And I don't want to go he talked to us off camera. I don't want to go into that too much. I don't want to go into that at all, actually, because it was off camera.
Right,
but this seems like this could be a really cool relationship for them and for games coming forward with Discord. They got the crosshair on Steam.
It's a little sign of the times, too. You're starting to see people, nudge their way in or find cracks in the armor and start trying to work in on,
on the Evil Empire. Gaben.
The Empire.
I mean, they're the only game in town. Nobody. I mean, nothing else even compares. People dread opening Battle.net. Dread opening Origin, Uplay. Nobody wants to open this crap. Different friends list, it's a mess. Everybody's using Discord. If you're gaming on PC, you're using Discord. I don't know how you're not.
Yeah.
And
they're actually in a good position to take advantage and leverage something like this. Who else is going to go against Steam? Microsoft?
Yeah, I mean, now they've got the Microsoft Store, but again, it's the same thing. Nobody
goes there,
dude. Crap.
Nobody's going to go there.
Well, and that is the thing with the Microsoft Store. There are some exclusives, but those are usually tied to the Xbox. So there's some games that are exclusive Microsoft, exclusive Xbox. Those ones they tend to mark exclusively for the Microsoft Store, and they're not on Steam. So we did, what was the game that we interviewed that was, the last one we interviewed? That was, what was
the last one we interviewed today?
Yes, the zombie one.
Time to build the Rapture Rejects?
No. The zombie one that we did last. State of Decay 2. State of Decay 2 is exclusively Microsoft Store game. So it's either you buy it on the Xbox, which then allows you to also play it on the Microsoft Store, or you buy it on the Microsoft Store, and for no extra charge you get to play it on the Xbox. So we're seeing more and more of these.
Do you have a problem with that? Not their business model, but I mean, you as a gamer, like you sat down and you're like, hey man, I think I'm going to play State of Decay, or you're like, I'm just going to play something else.
No, I think it makes sense, and I've said a while ago that I don't like the fact that I have to rebuy games on PC and console.
Got a lot of money wrapped up in multi-platform games.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so if
I own Minecraft on damn 6 consoles. Yeah, I own it everywhere.
Nintendo's same way. I bought the cartridge back in the day, and then I bought it for the Wii. I've downloaded it, and then they got a Wii U. Can't migrate those things over. Your purchases can't migrate over.
Now you're playing it on your phone.
Zelda again.
Yeah.
It's like,
and that's a benefit.
Man.
I mean, that's a selling point for Microsoft games. That's a selling point for the Xbox.
It is, but like I just won't do it. And it's nothing. It's not that I'm gonna
see. That's it, though. It's just not integrated.
It's
Where are your friends? Do you even have a friends list? I mean, I know you've got a friends list on Xbox, but I don't think I have a friends list on the Windows Store. I mean, I might, but I don't know.
Killer Instinct came out, and I was excited about it. I was like, dude, I'm going to get that. I like fighting games and stuff. I'm definitely going to pick up Killer Instinct. It wasn't available on Steam. So I was like, I'm not going to mess with it. And time went by, and I just never went and did it. So it was a missed opportunity for me personally.
Yeah, now...
But I think it's a better thing, though. I think that that's where, with my Steam library, I wish that all the games that I had that are available on PlayStation or on Xbox, that I had an actual license to that game to where I could go play those games, and because I own them, they link to my account. I think that's a selling point over Steam.
Right.
Because I don't see Steam ever getting those license agreements and making that happen. But you know what? If there is a PlayStation Store for the PC, like if they branch out just like Microsoft did, which may happen, right? I mean,
it would be neat if you bought a game and any platform it ever came out on, you had that license to it. Like I paid $60 for A Link to the Past, an old classic, and it's like if it comes out on the Wii U, okay, oh yep, it looks like you bought it, and I can download it. If it comes out on the Switch, I can download it on that,
Well, and they have
Just
the
as an
ability.
example.
They have the ability to pretty much play games on a PC from PlayStation, where it streams it. Right? Isn't that's the thing? I haven't used it, but they do have a streaming service where
What, stream from the PlayStation?
You can stream game.
from the PlayStation.
you can either
To a
do,
computer?
but you can do PlayStation
No.
Now.
Yeah,
you
PlayStation Now is.
You can do
Not like
PlayStation Now,
stream
but
to-
I think you can actually play. I'd have to look.
I don't think I've never heard of that. I know PlayStation Now is streaming games. I don't.
But
think
it
they
plays to it. But you can
Yeah,
play.
you can
You can do
stream to PS4,
PlayStation Now to your
I
PC. So I
Oh,
think
I didn't know
that
that.
for them, they are working on getting that Microsoft or the Windows market. For them, it's a little harder because they don't really have an app. But if they can get enough people doing that, if you own it on the PlayStation, well, I'm not gonna go rebuy that on the PC. I'm just gonna launch that app that allows me to play it.
It's funny though, some games are so beloved, you'll buy them no matter what. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, I've probably bought 3 copies of Castlevania Symphony of the Night over the years, from the disc, the download on the Xbox, to having it.
I've got
somewhere
GTA
else.
5 on the Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? How many times you gotta buy the game?
I mean,
but
I've got 108. I've got $200 wrapped up in Rockstar for one game.
Yeah.
On GTA 5.
right.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So to see some of
Yeah,
that
that's pretty
stuff,
crazy.
see some of that, but there definitely is your game has to have a big enough draw. Killer Instinct clearly
get you
did
to
not
buy it
have the
3
big enough
times.
draw. But guess what?
It's niche.
But guess what? Fallout 76 does, and that's why people will use Bethesda Net or whatever the hell their launcher's called to play because it's got the draw. Killer Instinct,
No,
it just doesn't have the
That's
draw.
not gonna happen. Right.
Yeah.
but if you Overwatch, for example, the new Call of Duty is on Battle.net. Activision is owned by Blizzard. Big enough draw, people are gonna buy it on there
Yeah.
if they want to.
I mean, really, it's a minor step, right? The download and another app and
But it's
stuff.
just-
but
it's
people,
a pain
it
in the
feels
ass.
creepy. Dude. People
Yeah.
don't like to do it.
Yeah, it's just annoying.
I know Microsoft tried to get people into doing more apps and things like that in Windows 10 and Windows 8. That really hasn't taken off so much. I think they're still trying to figure that out. They're trying to get people to feel comfortable purchasing things, first of all, on the Microsoft Store, because people will go purchase apps and things on a phone, but they just don't feel comfortable going into an app store on a PC.
They don't have a credit card on the account. They don't have a billing address. They don't have any of this stuff.
Forgot their password. They made the account a year ago. I don't even know what it
The
is.
thing is, 20 versions out of date because you click no
Let it
every time it
update.
updates. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it's
Yeah, that's true.
kind of a mess.
Who
Oh,
else?
I've got something.
What's
We
up?
met the H1Z1 folks.
Oh, yes.
We ran into Sarah Flanagan, who is the community manager at
H1Z1.
at H1Z1, and I don't remember the name of
remember
the
the guy's
gentleman she
name.
was with. I'd never seen him before.
I recognize them, but I don't remember his name.
So it was cool. Sarah was really cool.
Everybody was nice.
Yeah, I thought it was nice of she she recognized us, which is probably not a good sign over at Daybreak, but she was very nice, and hopefully we can have somebody on the show soon to talk about the PS4 version of King of the Kill, which,
Yeah, she mentioned
which is of
it.
interest.
She
yeah.
says to get a hold of
H1Z1.
her about it. So
Yeah.
I know
so
you
that'd
always
be cool.
will call it.
I'm
King of the
sorry,
Kill.
it's a habit, but yeah, the H1Z1, the PS4 version of H1Z1. I think that's interesting. You and I played it. Did you play it with us?
Yeah,
You did.
Yeah, on the PS1.
It was. I mean,
it
it was actually pretty
worked.
good.
I was surprised at how well it worked, considering issues I've had on a PC personally.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, the port to console. Let's see how it goes. I was actually surprised at how well it felt good.
Yeah.
Playing it on a console. So
So it was
That was
cool.
a trip.
It was cool to see Sarah. And
I hope it is successful on PS4.
Yeah, it's definitely if there's a platform where it can strive and succeed, I think it is the PS4
PS4,
free to
yep.
play. PlanetSide 2 is a huge game on PlayStation. It's way bigger on PlayStation than it is on PC. And it's just that thing. It's a free to play game on a console. People love that.
Yeah.
well,
Games
maybe
are
it'll-
expensive on console. Every game is $60.
Yeah. Maybe it'll find a home over there. That'd be great.
Yeah.
You
So hopefully look forward to that soon. TM. I don't know when. I don't know when they're going to want to come on, but
We'll initiate contact now that we had a handshake and
they realize that we're not the boogeymen that
I was very nice.
you were very nice.
Everybody was very professional, courteous, minded their manners, and everything was cool.
Yeah.
There was not anything awkward or weird about it. It was cool, man. So hopefully that established a nice, steady ground, for everybody to play on and whatnot. So hopefully they'll do well. They didn't have a lot of time to get in depth and do
They didn't have
an
a
interview
booth.
or anything. They were busy and stuff, so.
Yeah, they were there, and we saw. Look, fortunately, we wouldn't have known they were there. They were the first game that Facebook was streaming a bunch of games at PAX on the website.
She did a big interview. Yeah,
and
you can probably find that.
Yeah, if you just go to Facebook Gaming, there should be an H1Z1 live stream. It was the first day. It was Friday.
It was Friday.
Morning.
Yeah.
Probably it was 10 o'clock East, 10 o'clock Pacific.
Yep.
And she was there. And
Well, I actually saw her. I actually saw her.
You did
when
Thursday
she
night.
was walking to the convention center. She passed by, and I leaned to these guys and I said, "That was Sarah Flanagan."
Ryan pays a lot of attention. He's always aware of his.
And I was like,
Oh, yeah,
I was like,
looking-
no, it couldn't be her. And
Yeah,
it was.
I'm just looking around and there's lots of people, interesting people.
These people, this ain't Boise. We're far from Boise.
anymore.
You gotta watch your back. And so as she passed by, and I was like, "That's Sarah Flanagan." And they're like, and Nick's like, "What? No way!" I think it was what you had said.
Well, I mean, I didn't know they were going to be here.
Yeah, I
There's
was
so many
like,
people. What are the odds, right? But it was.
Yeah.
What are the odds that Brian, of all people, sees the community manager of H&Z would walk around as
they
we're
stand out
walking
to
around
me.
the streets of Seattle on Thursday night? Yeah.
And so I pointed out. So we knew they were here. We knew someone was here, and we were like, "Well, maybe she's just here just to check it out."
She's the community manager after all for a video game.
Yeah, and so
that's her deal,
then we went to the Facebook Gaming and we saw her there doing the interview, and we're like, well, let's see if we can get something together. They had sent out a tweet saying we're in this lobby, handing out codes or doing whatever, and so we went and met up with them and shook hands and had a nice time. So
Yeah, it was fun. She was very nice, and the whole team
very
was
cool.
nice. So hopefully we can get up with somebody here from the H1Z1 team soon to talk about the PS4 version. Looking at my list, guys, I think we talked to. I think that's everybody. We made a lot of good contacts. For example, Ubisoft, we made a good contact with. Discord, we made a good contact with somebody there.
yes, because I mean, for people that watch the live show or we just listen to the show, they know that we've been making some speculations about Discord.
Yeah.
And Discord's role in gaming and just some things that are happening. So it was nice that we were actually go to talk to someone who works for Discord and say, hey, and I'm not going to say, we'll save what maybe for the show or whatever, what we really talked about, but we just said, hey, we'd like to talk with you about these things. Can we arrange just to have an interview done where we can ask you some very direct questions about where you guys are going, and based on kind of our speculation of what we're seeing out of you guys and what's happening. So I think there was some confirmation, not to go too deep into it, but I think there was some confirmation of our guesses.
Yeah, which I mean, we talked about it that Discord is going to get into the game selling market. It was clear by last year Nightmare that they are clearly they're getting into that market at least for a limited time. The 90-day pre-order or the 90-day play window, I guess, is first on Discord. So
well, and they weren't
into
even
some
really
stuff.
talking about it. I think for them, they're trying to keep it hush-hush. But the thing is, we found another game that was announcing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right on their booth. I mean, it wasn't a secret.
Right
It's
on the-
exclusively on Discord all over their booth.
But I think that they were trying to kind of keep it quiet. Like they haven't officially announced it yet. Discord hasn't officially announced anything. And so they were like, yeah, dude, we're not really talking about that yet, right?
Yep.
But then we found a game it was like, well, yeah, we're going to do exactly this, and this. And so we were like, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
In Discord, their body language said something different too. You would ask them a very direct question, and she was like,
She
I
would
can't really
she
talk
would
about
go,
that,
can't
but,
really talk
you know,
about
maybe.
it. Maybe.
like they were
But
trying to
I-
insinuate.
So
you know?
to say that-
there was definitely that there.
And to say that they seemed like they would be interested in coming on the show and talking about it. And obviously, you'd say, hey, you got come on, stick with survival, stick with these games. But at the end of the day, Discord and the services that we use to play these games, in my opinion, are just as important as the freaking games. Because if they don't exist.
Discord's now in the mix. Facebook's now in the mix. Like a lot of people were looking
Mixer
at
had a huge presence. I know it's the evil empire to Twitch over here, but Twitch is the evil empire to Mixer. But Mixer was there. Microsoft had a huge Mixer presence.
Yeah.
This industry is rapidly changing, and
And that's the thing is we want to keep on top of that. I think that if we can even give information helping people to know what's coming up in the industry, that is a very big. I mean, Well, you never know. This may change to Infection, the Gaming Survival Information Network.
Podcast.
Just how video games survive.
Let's get a longer domain name.
Can someone get that domain name for us?
One. But yeah, I think staying on all that stuff. Yeah, PH saying an interview with Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to come on and talk about Facebook gaming. I do really quickly want to give a huge shout out to the PAX people who graciously have given us media badges for now PAX East 2017 and PAX West 2018.
And hosting a really cool event.
Yeah.
They did a good job.
I mean there's no... Here's the thing. Compared to all of the people there, we're nobody in the grand scheme of all of the massive media presence that's at these things. You've got, I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar event that goes on here.
Well, billion.
I mean,
it's like a billion. I mean, overall, the whole thing.
It was a lot.
I mean, we saw Fortnite. We saw Fortnite alone spending millions.
Alone.
So hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
Twitch was blocking off streets. They did a live action
like movie
gunfight
and
simulation.
plus the amount of money
scenario.
that comes
It was
into the
nuts,
Seattle area, like
dude.
this is a huge deal, and so it's good to be a part of it.
What had burnout cars and stuff? It's like
it's crazy.
It's so crazy.
And PAX doesn't have to give us media badges, and I appreciate that they do, and they give us the opportunity to again show off our niche here, which is survival gaming.
Yeah, it was good, man.
Which is a lot of fun. So with that, I think that was all.
Well, and one thing we can kind of mention some games that we didn't get an interview with, but that were there. So Far Cry has their new. For those people that play Far Cry 5, there is the third installment of the DLC. The first one was the Vietnam themed DLC. Then they had a space going to Mars DLC. And then this last one is a zombies, which I guess kind of fits into our thing. Hopefully we'll get some, maybe a chance to at least get some questions or something.
We made a good contact with them.
We tried. It wasn't like a trying for them.
Yeah, so Far Cry's coming out with that new one there. There was another one, I'm trying to remember, that we didn't get a chance to do.
The Forest.
The Forest. Yes.
The Division.
The Division 2 as well.
The Division, yeah.
Which will be coming out here pretty soon.
The Forest is something we played though. Let them know that we show about that.
So with the Forest, we worked really hard. We went back like 5 times.
The Forest was nestled again, another game nestled within the Sony booth.
Yes.
And we saw that. Oh, Forest is here.
Yeah.
And so we were told that there is somebody floating around, but we never could get up. Turns out that there was nobody there from the Forest.
So that's why everybody who was looking for us could never find that person.
And it was pretty funny. We walked by the PlayStation booth today, and one of the PlayStation staff members said, "Hey, did you guys find the guys from the Forest?" And it was pretty funny because we kept showing up. Really wanted to talk to them.
It was kind of I thought it was interesting just to see that there was a lady there who was working the PlayStation booth, right? A Sony employee of some kind. And she typically plays like side-scroller video games and stuff, but she was actually working next to the Forest. And we had mentioned to her, hey, have you seen the devs? Have you seen anybody around who's working with the Forest? And she was like, no, but I would love for them to come back here so I could talk to them because I'm really interested in this game. I feel like I'm actually getting enthralled in this. You know what I mean? When people would walk away from the booth and no one was there, she would turn around and play it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's supposed to be sitting there like talking to people. So she's like, I really like this kind of game. It's spooky, it's scary, and it's enthralling. And I just thought it was neat to see somebody pick up a survival and immersion type game and be really into it. So it just showed a cool interest. So it was nice to see that transition.
But let me tell you why, Lance. Because it's on a console. And it's so much freaking easier. She doesn't have to go and spend $1,500 on a goddamn computer to play. She can spend $200 on an Xbox.
Definitely got the impression she did not have a gaming rig.
No.
So
so everybody always wants to trash on the console. It's every industry, every game genre rather, benefits from console players because they get interested in the genre.
And I think they're doing the big push for VR. They didn't show VR off with it this time.
No, not so.
But I think what they're doing, this big push of all these patches with VR, because I think at whatever the next gaming convention probably is after this one, I think they're really wanting to show off the VR side of the Forest.
Yeah, that's
because
cool.
They were showing a lot of games in VR. I think that's PlayStation's big push right now because all those games lined up around the outside were all VR.
Dude, they see the wave. It hasn't crested yet, but they're seeing it swell up, and they're like, we got to get into this VR.
So
I'm sure the next iteration of VR from Sony that we see is probably going to be a breaking wave. It's going to be really interesting.
And I think they're pushing. PlayStation is pushing a number of VR games, but I think that we'll then see at the next convention the Forest demoing that VR mode, which may bring a whole new life to that game.
Even Overload, like a spiritual successor to Descent, even though they didn't have it there, he
Oh,
wanted.
yeah,
to
you
make
should
sure
explain to them because we haven't talked about that yet.
Didn't you mention it last night a little bit during the
don't remember.
Hero Quest session?
Well, yeah, but this is the
a
one going
podcast.
out to our podcast.
Oh,
That
okay,
one was
okay,
for
okay.
people.
And there's
that-
another game too
Is that
that we
not
missed too.
Yes, sir. So for those people, I mean, we've probably got a decent sized audience that are
That's not
in
true.
their mid to the
Blow it out of the water.
mid to upper 30s, right?
Okay, some.
Old people, yeah.
So,
You
I mean,
and I,
they're
yeah.
so they're out there, and there was a game called Descent back during that time when we were in high school, probably that was a very groundbreaking type of a game for the
Yeah.
time. I mean, just like Wolfenstein was a groundbreaking game for feeling like 3D,
Yep.
even though it wasn't. It was ray traced and it was not a 3D game.
Mm-hmm.
This one was a groundbreaking game for having an actual, I guess, being
Full
really
360
3D. You could
rotation,
do
yeah.
360 rotation, go all sorts of places. It wasn't a going straight down the hall, turning left, and having very mechanical or directed movements.
Yeah.
This was a full 360, fly around and do everything type of a game. Well, the ones that were behind that, they put out one called Overload, which has a very similar feel.
Dude,
I mean, if you enjoy
it's
Descent,
the same game.
These guys were losing their minds.
It's
playing
like
game.
this. If we say, hey, do you remember Descent? If your answer is yes, you know what we're talking about exactly. If the answer is no, I need to go look it up, then you're not going to have this
No.
instant nostalgic feel for this really groundbreaking game at the time.
but we were flying around, really enjoying the game. It has that very comfortable feel,
It was Descent, 100%.
which I haven't seen another game.
I don't know if you're
I
okay
haven't
to
seen
say that,
another
but it
game
was.
since then that had that feel
Nope.
of flying around. So I think that they did a really good job of catching that and giving a similar experience. So it is available on PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
It's available on PC right now for $30.
Yeah, so if
It
you're
came out in
interested
May.
in that, if
Go
you
get it.
enjoy Descent, I would grab it because that'll give you a nice feeling of nostalgia. Just load it up and I feel like I'm in high school again.
A little bit.
But for you, it was not
I mean,
long ago.
I'm in high school. What was I playing? Like the Halo 3 or I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
I mean, Far Cry 4. I mean,
It's also
PUBG.
fully. It's
PUBG.
Also,
I was playing PUBG in high school.
it's also fully compatible with all the sticks and throttles. So if you've got Cytex
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever you've got, I mean, get in there and it's just another reason to break that peripheral off or invest in a peripheral.
Yep.
One more
I've
game.
been trying to get you to buy one for so long.
Hey, if they had one here at the thing, I could say,
Oh, yeah.
honey, this was the money.
This was the thing.
She
You
told me
said
I could buy
Yeah,
something.
Brian's
I
coming
did-
real close
I
to
did
buying a
see one.
$5,500 table, the big board game table.
Don't
to put
tell
in his
my
dining
wife.
room.
I think if we pushed him hard enough, we could have got him to get a,
Oh, man,
a
could you-
Vive or something.
could you-
know what I mean?
no,
He was like,
No, I would have gotten like a PlayStation headset, like the VR headset.
Yeah,
If
dude.
they would, the thing is, it needs to be cheaper than Amazon. I need to feel like I'm coming to this, and I'm getting a special. That's the problem with prices of these things.
Sure, there's a Walmart
it's-
around here. We
it's
haven't
not-
left yet.
It's not. Yeah, I don't need to fly home with that. Let's go to Walmart in Boise.
Oh, the Walmart Boise
Boise.
style. Whoa.
Yeah, where they're fresh. And,
Jesus
new box smell.
Yeah, nobody's buying any of these. There's no population in
The
your
box
box.
is all beat
To
up and
wipe
dirty.
to wipe the
Yeah,
dust
wipe the
off
dust
because
off.
I'm one of the only guys with a computer.
Jeez.
And so if I came to these places and I went in there and it's like, oh, this is a PAX special, like I'm actually
yeah.
getting a special price on something.
Yeah.
We would look and we'd be like, okay, let's compare this to Amazon really quick.
Yep. And everyone else there is too.
It was almost cheaper on Amazon every single time from what I saw.
Almost. What about those cards? We found a pack of D&D cards there, something that I've been looking
This
at.
is
some
not at
fifth
PAX.
edition-
This is at some gaming
No,
store in Seattle.
at PAX.
Oh, but there were ones
At
at
PAX is where I
PAX.
found them. This was a deck of all the Ranger playing cards for D&D 5th edition. It was all the spells and a nice, licensed pack of cards. So we found them at the event. I was like, dude, look at these, $25. Hold on real quick. Flipped them on my phone, didn't get a signal. We're like, you know what, I'm not going to buy them right now. We were out and about at
Go
dinner
lunch.
time and stuff. Yeah, and we saw a little comic book store. We're like, man, let's dive in here and check it out. Same pack of cards on the shelf was like $6.99. $25 at PAX, $6.99.
So it's like a PAX tax.
2 blocks
Well,
down
it
the
makes
road.
sense. Those boots have to be outrageous, and they've got to upsell a little.
It kind of
right?
makes sense, but when I came here, I was like, if I found a Switch cheap enough, like if there was a PAX special, and you see these all the time, right?
But they would have sold that so quick. There's no way we would have gotten.
Well, then
That's what
Nintendo
they wanna
needs to
do.
keep shipping them.
That's right.
They need
want
to
get
have
their
a
console
crate
out there,
and
then you gotta
crates.
get it out
If
there.
they wanted to sell, if their goal is to sell stuff, like
Sell it, man.
That's why they're here. They're trying to sell Switches. They're trying to sell VR.
Yes.
They're trying to
Wanna get a
sell
sale,
games,
dude.
right? They should be
Yeah.
loading up these things to where you get in there. You know what? You're getting cheaper. Even if it's just a little bit cheaper than Amazon.
Yep.
Have it just enough cheaper than Amazon to where you can turn around and
Even match it, right? Give me a discount. What's up, PAX?
he's reading chat.
No, I'm not.
Oh, he's just laughing.
Something else.
Okay. But if it were something I went in there and it was cheaper, I would have gotten probably a PlayStation VR set. If I felt like it was 10% cheaper than what I could get on
Right.
Amazon. But there was nothing like that. Everything was more expensive.
I got
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Are we done here?
No, we're good. One more quick game that we did
Yes.
see that you've talked about this. You showed this a while ago. Overland, which is this dynamically spawning.
And I
zombie
didn't.
game.
Okay, so
I saw it and I forgot about it. And we saw. Luckily, they were there today.
So
Yeah,
the thing is I bought this because it was something Nick and I were talking about. Like years ago in chat, we were messaging each other, and I was like, "Dude, this game just came out."
It's weird. It's a blocky. It's
it's like
odd.
a survival game, and it's unique looking. I was like, yeah, it seems interesting to me, and so I ended up picking up a copy, and then after a little while, I quit getting email updates about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I turned around and I asked them. I was like,
What's going on?
yeah, what's up? I quit getting emails. I figured you guys like stopped development, dropped it, and they were like, oh, we changed the our marketing and like things got kind of messed up, and they said, but we're still going. Like they've been developing
And
it.
you interviewed them, which is
And
great.
we were able to sit down and get an interview
Who is
and
she?
line
Was
up.
she the?
She's the husband, or her husband is the main developer.
Right. But
They
she's
started
like a
together.
PR person or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
right?
She's one of the owners of the company.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so we set that up that it's a single player game, but it is one that I think a subset of our audience would really enjoy.
Yeah.
Because it does have random generation. It changes. You can do different play styles of trying to get to the end. And so I think that if the price is right, that's a game that some of the people that are into the games that we talk about, some of the different games, when want a survival or a single player environment, they can just kind of relax and play.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would enjoy it. So now that I know that it's going and still going strong, I'm gonna update it when I get home, do a little bit of playing because I enjoyed it when I did play it. But I just, as I said, I thought they
How
were
much time did
developing
you
it.
put into it?
I think it was like $20-something originally.
Sure.
No, how much time? How much?
Oh, time! I played for probably about an hour and a half originally.
Okay.
So, but that was when they very first announced it, and it only had I didn't get to the end, but there was a limited amount of content, right? And so now they have a lot more content. They've been developing it the whole time. So it's something to where you go through different biomes. You can use different strategies to try to beat the game. It's unreal, and we'll go over that in that interview.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Well, gentlemen, anything else before we head out here? I guess we'll go out and see,
No, man, we
see a little
covered a
more
lot.
Seattle, and I guess that'll be it for this year.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if there's anything else. Looking at these business cards I went through, just to see if there's.
Yeah, I look at this pile over here too. I got
We did talk to the Blackout Club. That was that room we went into where
Oh, yeah.
they were developers, and they were actually just in a side room when we were getting ready to do another interview.
Yeah, that was
And that
an
one
interesting
actually,
concept.
yeah, it's definitely a work in progress, but that may be interesting because they are seasoned developers. They're people that have worked for larger studios, kind of similar to what we found with the Darwin project.
Yeah.
But they have a very unique game that has a lot of really unique mechanics.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he almost had a hard time explaining it all to me.
Did you feel like there was an end game to that, or it was just like a
I don't think that.
perpetual thing?
I don't think. I think that they're coming up with the base mechanics,
Yeah.
and
It's
they're
not fully cooked yet.
they're not. Yeah, they're like, we're gonna, depending on how it goes, like we're gonna finish it later. But I think they're mainly demoing it to see the interest level. But the graphics look great.
Yeah, it was cool.
And I
What
like
was
the
show?
idea.
It reminded me of
Stranger Things, yeah.
It
Scenes
seemed-
running through the
It
village, yeah.
seemed like a lot of the inspiration was Stranger Things.
It's a great show, by the way.
And so I think that they were going for that feel. So this is one that may come up later. We may want to keep our eye on this one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because as they start to flush it out, this may be something that comes up later. Because there is the possibility of it being really cool and being fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is one. We don't really need to talk about that.
Talk to them. Yeah.
Yep. And then Rowan Ralph.
And that's it.
We'll give away.
All right.
We'll start giving away some of these chicken skins later
Yeah.
when we're doing a more of a normal show.
So I
And
guess,
H1Z1 ones.
yeah, we've got some codes and stuff to give away, and we're gonna get in touch with all these developers. So I guess real quick before we get out of here, I want to thank. I think we thanked a whole bunch of people, but we really do need to thank our community that made this trip possible. People that buy
These guys?
Yeah, these guys right here. People that buy games on Humble Bundle, support us on Twitch Prime, support us through our Amazon affiliate program, and then of course the direct donations through PayPal. Without those donations and tips, and Falcon just cheered us some bits in the chat. Without that stuff, this event, PAX
Wouldn't
East
have
last year, doesn't happen. It's too expensive. We can't afford to do it.
Yeah.
It's an expensive event already, even on top of the donations. But it's impossible without those donations. So we want to thank everybody that support, even the people listening, everybody that supported us over the past, what's it been 3 years now that we've been doing this show.
Yep.
Because these trips, these events don't happen. We have a group of 4 people hanging out. We got embroidered T-shirts. We got video equipment.
I know,
This is
it's
a
not
whole.
I think
we handed out dog. We had 75 dog tags that we handed out.
You don't have one, do you?
I don't know.
Then
Is there
we
any
give
dog
them all
tags
out.
floating around here?
I
John?
think that the 4 people worked out really well because we were able to, when we're doing, one person's running the camera, 2 people running security of keeping people from walking through the shot.
Oh, there's one above your head.
There's one right there.
We're hiding them.
So
You're right. You're right.
So
Four
I
people
think
is a good
the
size.
4 was perfect because then, we were able to handle the whole thing. We could have gotten away with 3.
Brian and I could have done it ourselves, realistically.
Yeah,
But
it
it
would've
would
been,
have
yeah.
it would have been a real pain. It would have sucked. We would have been worked to death, and it would have been no fun.
It's cool that there's an opportunity for a few of the community members to jump in and come to these things. You know what I'm saying? Sean, myself, and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Huge shout out to Sean, by the way, who helped
Yeah.
us in just an incredible amount with a whole bunch of stuff. He's helped us with a whole bunch of stuff on the show. Huge
Jimmy's
shout out to
awesome.
Sean.
I mean, Sean's awesome. Dude.
doing our googling during
The
our
man
live
behind
show.
the camera, behind
Yeah.
the scenes. So no,
Thanks to
it's
Lance
cool.
for getting getting all this stuff done.
all the swag.
Our
no
logo.
problem,
I mean,
man.
Chris, you made our logo. I mean, for all of it.
we all appreciate having a community to come together with. You know what I'm saying? You guys are driving force behind that. It's just cool that I mean, we're all friends. We all play games all the time and hang out and whatnot. So yeah, it is cool that we're able to come and do this kind of stuff. We pull together and send the team up here to do this kind of stuff and check it out and find out about things that we're interested in, games. So.
Alrighty, folks. Well,
Good.
for Lance Gunter, Brian Aldridge, and myself, Nick Craig, our friend Sean Callahan producing the show, thank you so much for tuning in for our special PAX West 2018 wrap-up. We'll see you on the next episode of Infection, the Survival Podcast.
Later, folks.